around the 43rd session of MGD. So it's been going strong for quite a long time. So it's a big number actually to hit 44. And just a quick thing, there's a big backlog on the YouTube and the editing. And Anirban reached out, and he in the last few weeks has helped edit, and we've uploaded everything. So it is like a marathon session. So thanks to Anirban, all the videos now are updated. We have the last two which will be uploaded today. So and it's a massive archive actually. If you look at so many people's stories, and I think it's a huge archive which is there. And the sessions are wonderful because it's not just about work. It's about their story, the personality behind it, and it's been captured really well. So it's and quite a lot of the consumption is happening on FB Live. And most of the sessions, the people go on and see it on FB, then it goes on YouTube. And most sessions go at, I mean, between 500 to 1,000 views. So it's quite nice. There's quite a few alumni who are seeing it, and we don't put any social media. It's just on the NID and NIDA alumni. So it's shamelessly for NID. It's one format which, I mean, doesn't think of anything else, but it's about really about nostalgia and understanding the people behind it. So it's been super inspiring. Proud to say that we are heading towards the 50th mark. And today we have Bala. Bala has been a batchmate of mine and been connected over the years, and we've constantly meet each other in Dubai or in Pune. And Bala was this guy who would never talk and suddenly woke up in the middle of ragging and taught us this Marathi song and saved us from Gary that day. To now that he's right in the heart of PDF and doing some crazy stuff along with a lot of other designers in Pune. So he's actively involved, and it's quite lovely to see his story. And we have the professional host today, Shiva, who's been a senior of ours. And besides that, Shiva is also running this interesting podcast. And if you can, Shiva, during the session, if you can share on the chat the link for it, he's doing some interesting stuff on design to his podcast. So I'm going to spotlight Shiva and get Bala on and leave the floor to you guys. Bala, unmute.
Yep, I'm here.
Thank
Hi,
you.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Sajid. And yeah, yet again, we are back talking to Bala. I've been kind of involved. I mean, I saw Bala first as like almost like a very young kid, right? He didn't have a moustache or a beard, and he walked into NID. And there are lots of stories that are coming up further from it. And ages after I kind of met him, where he had grown a huge beard, right? Like I had also grown a beard. I grew a beard because I realized suddenly that I could change the shape of my face, which wasn't of a great shape to begin with. So why did you grow your beard, Bala?
Oh, me? Well, I think partly also because I think it was too lazy. And then and secondly was, I think I started growing a beard around 96, 97, towards the end of NID. And that was a time we were doing, involved in projects. So, and it just happened. I just kept the beard, and since then, beard has been following me.
Good.
But there was no reason. I think it was just.
No, that's reason enough, I would think. Yeah, let's. So I remember when you guys were actually used to sit around and ragging and all that. Like they like a stand-up comedian. No? You actually go around asking people, so where are you from? And say, I'm from Bombay. Then you'll have a joke. Did you bring vada pav? Some stupid sidekick like joke like that. But I remember asking Bala this question, and he said Chalisgaon. And I don't think anybody had a joke for Chalisgaon ever, because he was the only guy who, somebody had to be from Chalisgaon, I think. So what happens in Chalisgaon? How was your childhood in Chalisgaon? What do children do for, let's not talk about studying, right? Like, let's talk about leisure. What do children do when they're not studying in Chalisgaon? How was your growing up?
Well, growing up, Chalisgaon is a very small place. It is a railway junction actually. And very small, I think was some 40,000 population. And I studied in a school where this was the first English medium school, so to say, when nobody really spoke English. It was all Hindi or Marathi. And it was a regular childhood. I think we used to live in a wada, A Wada was like a group of people, multiple families living together in one place, and evenings used to be playing around in the in the around the building, and then we would typically take a cycle and then uh, roam the entire place, entire town in the evenings. And weekend there was no concept of weekend, but we typically would go around. For example, we had these wells over there, and we would go swimming in that. So I actually learned swimming in a well, and then later on went into a swimming pool. So it was quite funny that way.
Like
And
this was during a Visarjan or something. But
actually, Visurgence is what inspired me, because
right.
we used to see all these guys, really taking this murtis and then jumping into the wells. And I wanted to do that. I said, I will finally one day I will do that, and slowly started learning in the well, and finally also managed to do that. And later on, I think we had the Ganpati at an idea also.
Let's actually share your stuff. Let's share your screen, please. You
Yeah,
actually
I
get
can. I
your
can share.
screen on. Let's start with the stories that are there.
I will. I'll just share the screen. Okay, so here it is. So this is the place.
Right.
Charles Gam, right? I think, and it is popular because it is a railway junction. And so this train station, this picture is quite symbolic of the place. And because we would also go to the station to just watch trains pass by. And when the Gitanjali Express was launched, it was supposed to be the fastest train ever. And so we would go at 1 o'clock in the night, and just to see the train pass by for 30 seconds, and then come back home. Yeah, this is my brother and my sister. I think there are very few pictures, but this is how it was. Look at the way we never wore these clothes at home at all. This were only for the pictures. So, and there's another picture from school. You would see that there is the hairstyle. The hairstyle was actually called the Beatles cut, which
What is
later
the
on I
which year?
realized
Which year was this?
this was probably 75, 76,
Right.
76, I think, 76, 77. And school was and the early influences were music, of course. I think music became a important part. I'm sure many of you know about these things. This Binaga Git Mala used to be the chronicler. At the 8 o'clock every Wednesday night, you would hear that, and the radio, the Murphy radio, was at home, and one would get to hear all these greats. I think some of the people over here you would not recognize. This is, of course, Mohammad Rafi. There's Bhimsen Joshi here. There's Arun Date. There is Sudhir Phadke. And Akashvani was what do you say? Uh,
Conduit, the
I mean, this
source.
absolute the conduit. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And what
That's how
about
it was.
movies and plays? I mean, isn't Marathi theater big? Isn't there? Are there like many theaters and stuff like that that happen? Were you ever a part of those?
Yeah. Actually, we used to have a lot of plays otherwise in school also, but there was no auditorium. And so the only place where we actually got to perform was on radio. So we would make those skits and go to, uh, and also go to like nearby places like Jalgaon, which was like 90 minutes away, and perform there. And but often, I mean, the childhood was largely to do with music, singing. I remember singing was like really deeply ingrained right in the beginning, because once I heard this Gulam Ali, I got a cassette of Gulam Ali from somewhere, and I'd gone to a marriage. And the first time I heard it, I would I kept playing it on the loop for like 6, 7 hours continuously. It was totally mesmerizing, and that was my first introduction to uh, Urdu, at that time. So it was quite. And later on, it got converted into theater. But there was no organized play happening in Charlesgaon that way. There was no theater group or uh, any performances like that. We would definitely have orchestras in Ganesh during Ganesh, right? Ganesh
Right.
festival was like a major event. It was so major that we used to really look forward to it because every group within the town would really organize these cultural shows, and they would have skits, they would have musical performances, they would have all kinds of things happening, and that was we used to look forward to those kind of performances, and it really ingrained uh, s- uh, diversity of different kinds of music. Only then we got to hear about different types of music and folk music largely.
So I remember you came into NID pretty good with at games, right? Like you used to play a lot of stuff. How was it back then? How many bones did you break, really?
Bones were broken in rival matches in cricket, you know.
Right.
And and even if it was a small town, there used to be this Sadar Bazaar, like there was a bazaar area, and there used to be this. We used to live in a place called Hanumanwadi, so we used to have this contest and very fierce contest. But luckily, I think even for the small town, there was a concept. There's one person who started a concept of a play center, and the play center was like a 2 hour thing in the evening where anybody could join, and you would play different games for 20 minutes. Like 20 minutes you would play Coco, then another 20 you would play something else. And so we got exposure to multiple games. That was really, really fascinating. In fact, on hindsight, I'm thinking that it's such a fantastic way of introducing sports to different children, you know. And uh, other than that, we had a gymkhana nearby where obviously the fees were pretty high to go there.
Right.
But we managed to, make friends with the watchman, and and we would open up the gymkhana when everybody had gone after it in the midnight, and we would practice table tennis there, table tennis and badminton. So,
So what was the bribe? What did you guys give Dashrath the watchman?
well, we used to, we were ready to give him the fees, but
Right.
yeah, as collectively, of course, subsidized. But
Yeah.
then I think he did not have great demands. He was kind enough, I think. He was
Right.
kind enough. So that was pretty
Okay,
nice of him.
let's
I still think of him.
let's jump cut. Let's jump cut. Okay, let's go to the next slide and let's jump cut. I think
Mm.
yeah, let's talk a little bit about this gentleman on the left hand side. The
Oh,
Rembrandt
yes.
the Rembrandt Street or the Rembrandt Road. What a
Right.
story.
Yeah, yeah, this is quite a unusual. See, this Chalisgaon place is quite unusual and is famous for very, very crazy things. The best musical band, and like I think Abhijit mentioned, was from Chalisgaon. The guy on the left is an artist called Keki Moose, and he is actually the son of uh, the contractor for Victoria terminus in Mumbai. His sister his sister was married to one another Parsi. So and Keki Moses was her son, and he studied in England, and he came back to Bombay, and he settled in Charleston of all the places. So this was his bungalow next to the train station, and a very mysterious kind of a place because he would never step out of the house. He was a painter, and he was a sculptor, and he would do photography. I think he was I think in 1930s or so he came to 1940s he came to Chalisgaon, and since then he was there. It was quite intriguing for us as kids for to have this concept because otherwise it's all everybody's there, and this guy was there, very secluded, very quiet, able to do amazing stuff. So we used to go there and just be in awe of somebody like him, and it just showed a possibility about you could engage in yourself in a profession where you can really explore what you want to do. You became quite
Right.
famous actually. You know,
Kind of a
Jawaharlal Nehru and all kinds of people came to visit. And
quick
we still,
window into bohemian lifestyle for you guys in a small town, right? It's
oh yeah, yeah, it was
even the
pretty
photograph is
fascinating.
very beautiful. What a beautiful portrait, that earlier thing, like such a beautiful portrait.
Yeah,
Go to the next
right,
slide.
right,
Let's
right.
talk about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Who's singing?
Yeah, this is so the stage performances came in because the fascination for music, this was in school again. So the fascination for music, so we used to perform on stage. And I know the nice thing about a small town is that you are not lost in a sea. Because in a way, even in a class, there would be barely 20 people. And so everybody knew each other. Like the teachers, we had teachers from Goa come in and teach because it was English medium, and English was considered to be an alien language in that town, and considered to be something else only. And so the concept over there was that we would when the teachers would come and expose you to different kinds of music. So every little thing that anybody did was really encouraged, and you never felt really left out or not being attended to and things like that, which typically happens, the way I see it. So वो होता है दो में खाना राजा type. So if you are singing well, you think, चलो आगे बढ़ो types.
But you
And
also
so we
topped. You also topped right through school, didn't you? Where you the went you the
ah, yeah. That is again a mystery. I'm trying to figure out how did that happen. And so,
actually
sometimes,
I did some digging and research into it, and I found an interesting story about that too.
okay.
Yeah, so the source kind of says that apparently the first time you ever scored low, your dad landed up in the school, and you didn't want your dad to ever come to school, so you studied well and scored well right after that. Is that the truth,
Absolutely,
Bala?
absolutely. Oh, absolutely. That was embarrassing for me because to have somebody come there and say, "What happened? Why did you not score this time?"
So he asked the
It was.
teachers.
He asked the teachers, and I would dread the thought of my father visiting the school. Ever I would hide. So, but that's how he was, and that's. But then over here, I think. After the challenge comes, so the thing is in Maharashtra, Pune is considered to be like the hotbed of education. So if you want to do something in life, you must go to Pune.
Yeah,
If
so
you want
this
to
is we
study
are actually
further.
moving into 1991, right? This is
Yeah, okay. Sorry, you want to come
College of
back to this?
College of Architecture. No, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. Leave it.
Hmm.
I mean, let's talk about who on earth is Sanjay Baris. Let's talk about Sanjay Baris and talk about your architecture stint.
Well, Sanjay Bar is one important person. Sanjay Baris was studying. He lived very close to my house. He was studying third year architecture in Pune at this college, this BKPS College of Architecture. And typically, just like anybody who does well in school and scoring well, you have this regular options of engineering and medicine and whatnot. So I never wanted to do any of those things, and was looking for other options to what I could do. So one day I went to meet Sanjay Baris, and we were discussing, and he said, imagine, socho, you have created something, and there is a building that you create, and it is right in front of you, and you are looking at it. How does it feel to you? And that thought was too powerful for me. I said, wow, that's a fantastic idea to see your own creation in front of you, and and see it happening in reality. So that was the turning point. I said, okay, I must do something which would be in the creative domain, and I joined architecture. So that
Then
Sanjay Varis is the person.
right. So he was the there is one more extremely important person who will come up later who will change your life again, which we probably all know. We'll come to that later. But there was a story about a loo in this
Oh,
place,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. So now, this is this building is the architecture college. Can you imagine that? So we used to come to this, so I used to come to this place for your design courses and all. And one thing very funny about this place was that when you enter, I think this was like a makeshift kind of place. They were wanting to move, but they never moved for many years. I got made still in the same place 25 years later. So, right when you entered, right in the front, there were loos. And I used to wonder that how can you teach architecture in a place where you have such a mess of an architecture itself? And that used to bother me. That used to bother me a lot. Sorry. Oh,
Right. And then, so then
yeah,
one year of architecture. So the choice of leaving
yeah.
architecture was because of NID, or uh, you were not happy with architecture. Were you happy with the what you did in architecture at all?
Oh, just a second. I'm listening to some music started in my thing. Sorry.
No.
Yeah.
Were you happy with what you did in architecture
So
at
you
all?
asked me about the whether I was happy with the
Yeah, that's
architecture,
right.
right?
Yeah.
Architecture was a choice that I had. Sorry. I think there is some music is connecting to my uh, headphones. I'm sorry about
Oh,
that.
okay. No worries. No worries. We
Just
can't
as
hear it, so not to
There's
worry.
a voice in his head
that
from the
is.
past. It's like a nostalgia.
I think Vera is playing something.
You're back. Are you back, Bala? Go
I'm
back.
going to.
Go back.
Oh God.
Go back. Go back on the slides, please. Yeah. Perfect.
What's going on? Can you hear the music?
No, I can't.
Who's playing the music?
Oh, now I can hear the music actually.
Oh, what is that?
It's not anyone in the crowd, right? Where is that coming from? Sajid?
I think it's Bala's first year hostel room.
Correct. Yeah, something is happening. There is a ghost in
A
your
pop in
machine,
time.
Bala.
It's an existential thing.
Okay, I'm back.
All right, good, great.
Right, right,
Let's go back to that question again. I'm asking that question again. Okay, so you did 1 year of architecture.
right.
The Was that good at all? Was that course good? Was it a good choice that you did, and was it a good choice to leave?
Oh well. I had an option. I got into architect. I had engineering. I got into College of Engineering Pune as civil engineering, and I had also got into this medical college in Bombay. So it was. My parents were furious about this choice of architecture over getting admission in a medical college is like the big deal, right? At that point of time, and we came from a family not very resourceful that way. So then, making a choice of architecture was a very like a rebellious decision for me, and so I had to stand by the choice, and of course I liked it. I really wanted to pursue architecture ultimately, and so it was a very conscious choice. So in the first year, I mean, I was there only for a year,
Right.
and in the first year, I was just trying to warm up to the whole idea of architecture. So we had basic design and all. But you, only when you see something better, you realize what are the possibilities, right?
Right.
So
And which
that
is
happened.
what happens like right after, I guess. And
Yeah, I mean,
there is a
NID.
guy who changed your life. Let's talk about him now. I think it's a great idea to talk about. Let's put the next screen up and we can
Yeah.
talk over it. Let's put the next
So
slide.
this was a very interesting exercise because when so the story about how I found out about NID was also very interesting because one day at the architecture college, I saw a notice on the board, a beautiful notice with the NID logo on the left. and a very well designed letter. It was like a letter saying National Institute of Design and call for admissions. So it was kind of blooming. It was something about it. It was very, very beautiful. And this was around 20, I think September end. And I realized that, okay, there is something called a National Institute of Design. So what am I studying here? Isn't architecture a part of design? Is there something more broad and wider encompassing concept? And I found out about, this was around 20th of September, and I think the last date for filling the form and submitting was 30th. So, and at that time you had to send a pay order. What is it called? It's
Yeah,
called
something like
a
that.
yeah,
Something
yeah,
like that.
pay order.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you
You used
mean.
to get the form back and fill it up and send it back. So it took me some 4 or 5 days to just understand what this institute was about, and I heard all kinds of stories about ragging and stuff like that, and how they make you wash their clothes and stuff. so, so when uh, so finally I decided to, okay, it was coming very close towards 30th September. Around 29th, I decided, okay, I'm going to either go or drop the whole idea. And so I decided to travel to Ahmedabad on 29th. I took a state transport bus on 29th in the night and decided to, I said, I'll reach in the morning and then fill the form and we'll see how things work out. Nobody knew, my family did not know that I was going there and doing this. So, but there was a twist in the tale. The bus next day uh, got caught in a traffic jam. It was a very long traffic jam on the highway, almost like 6 hours or so. And it went into afternoon, and then again it was 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and I thought that it's impossible to reach the institute. But
But it,
somehow,
so those
huh?
kind of traffic jams in Bangalore, we call it Wednesday.
So
Sorry, go ahead.
that one must have been a Wednesday only.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so I landed there and from I went to the institute and this is what I see first. I say National Institute of Design and there's a tire which says NID का design goal है, इसमें बड़ा झोल है. What is going on? I said these guys cannot manage their own problems and they're trying to solve problems for everybody else. And I entered this place. This is around five, I think around quarter, I think 5 minutes past before 6. I managed to reach there, and I rushed to the. I was very scared because I heard all kinds of stories. I rushed to the academic administration office, and I saw Chandran sitting there. And Chandran was there. I told him that I've come from Pune. I've come all the way. I started yesterday night. So can you please give me the form? And he said, there's only 5 minutes. How are you going to fill and give it? You need to fill. There's a lot of questions, right? Your first movie and your first book, and your like very descriptive answers. So he said, okay, I'm going to wait for you for 30 minutes. You come back by 6:30 and fill the form. So I took the form and I went to the main gate. And that main gate, there was Vasant Devaji. Vasant Devaji was sitting there. You know Vasant, right? Vasant was this huge person sitting there, and he would look at you like this and say, Kya hua? Then I went and said, I did not know whether he was faculty or a student. So
Right.
he, so
For a long time, even for a long time, we thought he was faculty anyway. Yeah.
Even I thought he was faculty for almost 2-3 years.
That's right. That's exactly. That's the kind of thing which is. Yeah,
also
go ahead.
because, also because I think he was in, I think his final year, and we were very young, and he'd come after graduation and all. So he was sitting there. There were a lot of other people. There was people smoking and all. That was another shop. Uh, so I sat next to him and I said, can you help me fill this form? Help me while I'm filling this form. He said, okay. And he sat like this, and he really was very kind. He helped me and all that. And so I filled the form and gave it back to Chandran. And Chandran, I must be very thankful for, because that half an hour he gave me, I filled the form and gave it back to him. And that turned out to be uh, a big boon for me.
Right. So Chandran was the guy who changed your life from there to here in one sense.
I should have put his picture. I should have put his picture here.
No, but then, interestingly, he gave you that half an hour. He gave you that half an hour. That kind of turned out into a big thing. But what was the, yeah, you get inside, you get into NID from Charlesgao. What was the biggest shocker, whether it's culturally or otherwise, and why?
So, well, I think the biggest shock was that you were on your own. I think that was a big change, first of all, that in terms of being able to be responsible for the way you are doing things, like that was the first lesson that, you are going to drive what you want to do. So that became a big, that was a big change for me. And this whole concept of choice, when during ragging and all that, a lot of people used to ask me that, okay, why did you select this and why did you select that? And I used to always wonder that, I never made any choices. These were just like, in school and college, you went to first, second, third. It's like a conveyor belt, and you reach 12th, and then you decide to do something else. And so that really shook me. And that was conceptually that really shook me. Secondly, also there was literally a culture shock in terms of seeing diverse kind of people, right? People, and I remember the scene when I entered the institute. On the left hand side at the chai gate, there were this. I think I don't remember if Ranjan was there, but Ranjan or a few other people were there, faculty, students, and everybody smoking and smoking together. I said, "Wow, this is amazing." And then you have, for the first time, I saw women smoking. So that was again a big shock. So it really blows you, and you really want to think afresh. So that was there. And another aspect also, which later on in the next few, in the first year and things you get to understand, is that there is a lot of difference in the way people are, right? Like from different strata. People come from all kind of socio-economic kind of a background. Another shocker for me was that, although I studied in the English medium school, where although we had a fine, saying that there was a fine, that if you spoke in Marathi or Hindi, you would have to pay a fine of some 50 paise or something. Eventually, what happened was nobody spoke anything.
So that is interesting, right? You also say somewhere that like till then you have been greeting anybody and everybody with namaskar. The first time you said hi to anybody
Yeah.
was NID.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was another thing. So people were saying hi to each other, and I had never said hi to anybody in my life because it was only namaskar. And this was a new kind of cultural thing, right? You to accommodate and understand, and so it was pretty challenging, but it did not take much time. I think in the very soon you accommodated into the new language and all kinds of people. All these guys here, Sajid.
Let's move the slides. Then you can talk about them.
All these guys, of course, you can see him on the right. That is Manna.
This is your product design batch, you said.
Yeah, then after the first, we joined product design. Product design, I think we were some 6 of us, 6 or 7 of us. I think 2 dropped out later on.
Shubhadeep and Ripul are missing in the picture.
Shubhadeep and Ripul are missing. True. So we studied. Product design was like an obvious choice because the other option was communication design. And I'm sure all of us in this picture believe that graphic design was, वो तो आता ही है, तो उसको सीखने क्या जरूरत है? And then,
Right.
of course, there was a foolish assumption. But then we took.
No, you don't need to say that because there are graphic designers here. It's absolutely.
Then you realize and you get exposed to the aspects of it, right?
Right.
And these are some pictures.
This is what? This is just winter on the lawn type thing.
Yeah, winter on the lawn. This was during one of the chai breaks. I think this was one of the few pictures without the beard. At that time, yeah. The first product design course.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
what was that? I know that you don't want to talk about it, but I want to talk about it.
This course was the first exposure to simple product design, right? After you do the first year, and 5 of us, everybody had to select everybody had to design a comb. So, and Dindin and Ranjan were the guides. So each one of us took some crazy different projects. So I had taken a assignment of a comb for women with long hair. And the idea was that to create a comb which would really separate and make the oiling process also very easy and all that. So at that time, it was very challenging in the sense because this was the first exposure to design in the sense in the product design class. Uh, so we ended up doing some crazy thing. I mean, today when you look back and look at the things that we created, I had created a comb which was like this with the bristles like this,
Right.
and so that it could, the hair could pass through and all that. So I'm not happy about that. I mean, whatever we did that
Bala,
time.
this is that
But,
famous photo where Pushkar got chucked out. Back in that photo,
कौन सा था?
in that photo, no, Pushkar came to class. Ranjan asked Pushkar, he's in this call. He asked Pushkar, where are your concepts? And Pushkar confidently said, it's all in the mind.
Oh yeah. It's all in the mind. And I think you did
He
only
just wanted
Pushkar's
some
level
moment. He
of.
says, 1 second, can you come? What does that mean? Pushkar said, don't worry, it's all there. It's all in my mind. So
It's all.
yeah, he got chucked out of class. That's why he's not in the photo.
Right.
Oh yeah, Pushkar is not there. Absolutely. But you need Pushkar level of swag to do that, right?
Let's go to Sky Morrison.
Oh yeah, this is the one of the most enjoyable course in the 5 years, right? 5 years was a long time. So Sky, right in the center, we d- designed kites and questioned the basics of kites, which was like a revelation for all of us. That the kite could exist in so many multiple dimensions, and we also flew these kites. We made the stunt kites using, although we did not have carbon fiber and those kind of materials which are light enough to fight a stunt kite, but realized that you could actually fly a kite with two strings. We made those and we went to the International Kite Festival in Gandhinagar, all of us, and flew these kites. It didn't fly much. I think this was like going horizontally. But it was an amazing experience, eye-opening experience for me at least. It was quite fascinating. Yeah.
Right. What are you doing here?
This is well, this is another story because this was my first partnership. The left side is a partnership, right side is also a partnership. We bought a YSD in partnership with Arundeep Singh. Then again, conceptual saying that okay, let's have a bike. So we contributed 3,000 rupees each. That was a big amount that time, and did that. I wish I had that bike right now. Oh, yeah.
Right. 50-50 money, what happened to the bike? Like, did you guys cut it and sell it at the end of it? Like, what?
We contributed 50-50 to buy it. And later on, when after NID, the bike was still at NID. So we didn't know what to do with it. So
Right.
we gave it to that receptionist at the front desk. Yeah, he took it.
Let's go ahead. There's some work coming up.
Yeah, I think this was so NID was like a logical extension of architecture because we did some design courses there, and then went into product design. And in the third year and fourth year, uh, this on the left is some project that I did for a bulb remover from so people who cannot access the bulb at a high level, so you could use a remote tool. And you would be surprised that a few years later, somebody sent an application for to ticket design, and they put the same product in the portfolio.
Wow.
You believe that? It was quite bizarre. And on the right hand side was one of the fourth year project, which was for a floor cleaner. And that fourth year project was a disaster of sorts because what happened was I had a guide and we were discussing about various possibilities. And I think you get this melted block, right, when you're working on the new design and you get stuck and you take a lot of time to come out of it. So there were some early concepts and things were done. So at that time, this person told me and said that, okay, you know what, I think your work is very mediocre. Okay, कुछ नहीं होगा आपका, types. And then that really affected me. And really, I couldn't imagine that somebody would say that in those many words. And I went into a shell, and it was very difficult to really to come to terms with something like that. Okay, I was trying to figure out, because there was, these kind of statements have no uh, parameters saying that,
Correct.
okay, you
Correct.
cannot say that, okay, what is, they are rejecting a person more than the work. So that was really bothered me. But then I was thinking that no, there must be, it must be countered in a way. And so really worked hard on that. And finally made uh, completed the design in a way that no, I was satisfied to a level. Now, if I look at it, I don't feel anything that was good about it. But it was a part of your own experience, and it made a transition. Uh,
So
this,
is that the third year blues thing that you went through, or the equivalent of that? Like, I know that till second year we kind of are governed by the classes or end of the second year. Third year we kind of let loose a little bit. So eventually you have the blues. So
oh yeah, I think
is
probably
that
this
what it
was,
is?
no, actually third year was very exciting for us because we had represented technique. This left product was the bulb remover was in the third year, and third year also the year I think we had the electives and all. So for us, I think the third year was pretty interesting. It's a fourth year that became a. I think the fourth year
The
was a
blues,
little challenging. Yeah, fourth year blues.
right?
But then there were some outlets also, right? So we had these
No,
outlets. I think
but
we
then
had the
you
outlet.
actually, when we were speaking earlier, you were saying that there were also like people senior to you and stuff like that. That
Oh yeah. So like Neil Foley was there, and like Amit
exactly,
Gulati.
very talented people who who will kind of
Oh
you
yeah, they
think that
were.
you are lesser than them in any possible way. And so how did that work out?
No, I think we had when I was in the first year, we had Amit was just the next batch, and then Neil Foley was also there. And just to look at the Neil sketching and using watercolor and all that, I used to wonder. I mean, what are we doing here? You know? I mean, this guy's doing such fantastic the amount, the kind of rendering and the way he would create those renderings. And then and Amit was another level because Amit was like a workaholic. I think. Of course, but very, very approachable. Amit was very approachable and used to go to him and then we would discuss a lot and he was always open to discussion. So that was really amazing and very, very inspirational. Then, of course, Michael was there in the fourth year. And so those, that really, really helped. Initially, it was like a big problem, but then later on we come to terms with it, right?
Yeah. And then you guys almost get thrown out of the hostel.
Yeah,
What was
sorry.
that story? You guys
Oh,
almost get thrown out of the hostel at some point, right?
sorry. I think I just pressed it by mistake. Yeah. So that is a forgettable story. What
No,
happened was
no,
that.
let's bring it up.
Huh?
Let's talk about it.
Okay. So what happened was that there were five of us. There was Suresh, Bappa, then there was Sanjay, and me, and who else? Bappa, Sanjay, Suresh, and me. Yeah, five, right? Yeah,
Right.
five of us. So there was this group of people who at NID in our class who complained to the institute saying that okay, that they're taking that these guys are too good to us. They're taking too much care of us, completing our assignments and all that. Please, uh, we want to complain and we want to do something about it. So the institute saying, please throw them out of the institute. Five of them. Of course, this is not what happened, but we were. It was just. I think we were playing some pranks on these guys, and it was just banter. but it went onto the wrong side and took offense and all that. I mean, I remember you were also we used to meet at the mess below, and then we used to discuss this thing and laugh it off. But I think, I guess the threshold level was different for different people. But luckily, you remember that, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think Murli was
Murli
also
was also there. Yeah,
right.
Shiva, you
I
and
think
Murli.
you kind of missed Amitabh Pandey in the list. It was
Oh, Amitabh Pandey. How can I forget him?
yeah,
How
yeah,
can I
Amitabh
forget
Pandey.
him?
That's right.
He was my roommate. In fact, him and Shashank were my roommates. And that was another culture shock because I came from the Bhimsen Joshi and Arun Datte background, and he came from the heavy Metallica background.
And you actually played it both sides to kind of make the background come alive in one sense.
Oh, it was amazing. I got introduced to heavy metal.
Clash of cultures. That's exactly what you call it. Clash of cultures.
It was,
um,
yeah.
right. So then let's move to the most important thing,
Yeah. What is that? This is an outlet here.
right?
This was a big outlet for us.
Right.
So there were
Let's talk.
some
Let's
of the
talk about
things
this.
that
Is
happened. Sorry.
sorry. This is the Safdar Hashmi play. Let's talk about this. Let's say this.
Yeah. I think Priyanka is here, so she would remember this. And so some of the workshops and electives that we did were pretty amazing. Sudhana Deshpande came from Jananatya Manch and he was on campus. So we performed, I think, two plays we performed. One was Raja Ka Baja, and the other one, this one was Hatyare. This was by Safdar Rashmi about again the communal divide and the tension that we see even today. This was, I think, 20 years back, but now this play is more relevant than ever. So the idea was, and the street plays were fantastic because you could reach to the common person on the street at the same eye level. So that was really empowering. So the play was about, written by Sabdarashmi, about this divide and how different elements come into society and poison the whole environment, and how the whole thing is manipulated by them. So there's, you see, Deepa Ratnam is a politician. Then I think two of us, I think Jasjit was my father and I was his son. So I think Pandey was from the other side, right wing. And pretty amazing. We performed at the Mood Indigo in IIT Bombay. And later on, we also performed at St. Xavier, Ahmedabad, to a great response.
Did you guys?
Priyanka, do you remember that?
Did you guys actually do this anywhere on the street in Ahmedabad? In
Yes, it was on the street only.
Okay.
In St. Xavier's, it was inside the campus. I think that time, I think we did not do it on the streets. Probably it was a little too sensitive
Right.
play, this particular play.
that was the wrong time too. I think
Yeah, wrong time.
that was when the tensions were kind of lifting really. Like I remember my second, third year, it was like we were locked in and lived on loaves of bread. I remember that. It's
Correct. I think it was around 90, must be 93. Yeah, 93, 94.
right.
Yeah. But amazing experience that was. I think all of us. So we introduced this theater also at the Pune Design Festival, so you can get exposed to the nuances of theater as well as performing with your body. It was very nice experience. Yeah, that's how it was.
What do you
And,
have in your like no, let's go to the next slide. So Nishma.
No, this is where this is where on the left is our craft documentation project.
Yeah, I know. So that's the question that I have, right? So what was the first instance that you knew that Nishma was the one? And this is a question I actually asked Nishma too, but like of course it's like asking boys like me, when did you learn to drive a car? I don't know when I learned to drive a car. I do not know. It's one spectrum. At some point of time you pick it up, right? Like, but you seem to know exactly when this happened. Go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, I think so. We were classmates, and I think for the although we did a lot of projects together, but there was, we did not, we were not together. So in the fourth year, we did a craft documentation project in Palitana. Palitana is a place near Ahmedabad, where there are some I think 1,000 temples in that place. It's a
Jain complex, right?
town, Jain Derasar. So
Hmm.
it is a town of temples, and they have this fabulous tradition of making all exquisite harmoniums, and so all the big artists they take the harmoniums from Palitana. So we were studying this, and we spent a lot of time in Palitana and to understand the craft, met the master craftsmen and all, and that's where we really got to know each other actually, and that's where the connect happened. Before that, we were just
Friends, as they
yeah,
say.
just friends, and yeah, that's how it was. Yeah.
We are just friends. Right, sure. Right, yeah. So,
Actually, the photograph is from Palitana on the right.
right, right.
Yeah.
Can you stop sharing the screen
I will.
for a minute? I'm going to actually, what I did was uh, I'm going to share my screen, right?
Okay.
I actually asked Nishma like one question,
Okay.
right? And we've got only audio. Nishma is here too, but we've got only audio. I'm going to play the audio, Nishma. So, so I'm going to share my screen. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to.
वो पालीताना में हारमोनियम से
Right. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So that's Veera. Sorry, I've got the wrong screen. That's coming up later. Nishma. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I asked Nishma the best and the worst thing about working with Bala. This is working with Bala. Okay. I'm jumping because we are talking about Nishma. We might not get the time to talk about this further down. So I'm actually playing the audio through. I'll make sure that the audio is working for me. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to try sharing it again and make sure the audio is working. Share computer sound, keynote Nishma, and then share. That's it. Okay.
Yeah.
So what is the best thing and the worst thing about working with Bala?
Best thing and the worst thing about working. Okay. So the good part is that I think Bala is a very supportive person to be working with. He is very supportive of, you know, views of people, of things you want to do. He'll have a he'll try to understand. That's a good part of it. And also, he has a very interesting point of view about things which he brings in. So if we are discussing something, there's a different take on it that comes in, an interesting twist to it, sometimes. So that is a good part, or maybe something that you might not have seen, and he sees it that way, which is a little different. So it is very interesting. Sometimes I feel he may not understand my point of view fully. He has a very strong point of view and he's looking at it that way, and then he may not really understand what I'm trying to say. So that becomes a point of difference, and then we probably agree to disagree on some matters, and then we move on. But yes, we've had our fights, and it's got to happen, no? Also, one more thing that happens is sometimes he gives multiple appointments at the same time to multiple people. So that's very difficult to deal with. You decide that you'll do something at this time, and then somebody else is also supposed to come and meet, and then somewhere else also he's supposed to go. I don't know. It's reduced now, I think, because probably he's using calendar.
What would you advise to designers who are starting a firm with their spouse, boyfriend?
What I feel is that, like in our case, mine and Bala's case, we did a lot of projects together right from the start. What I feel is that it's important to know that you can work together. And that you will be able to respect each other for your views, that you will be able to appreciate the way you think, and the way the other person thinks, and that you have some sort of synergy. And then you can, move ahead. Because for ages all over the world, there have been family businesses, and they are, great. Like it's one of the best thing to work with your family. And because the differences can be sorted. Yeah, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And in the interest of the business or the company or the work that you're doing. So that, I think, is the good part of it. And those who are thinking of working together, I would say that it's good to work together if the synergy is there, if you guys think alike, if you have the understanding and respect, and you can, create that divide or the line in the roles that you play.
That's what we have from Nishma. I kind
But
of.
Shiva, what is your point of view?
Yeah, let's not talk about that here. We'll talk about you, not about me.
Public
I was
wants to-
actually
Devika's asking on the chat.
sorry.
Devika's asking on the chat. The nation.
Oh, Devika's asking in the chat. God damn! Like, where is the? Let me just go pull the plug on the Wi-Fi and come back.
Say Wi-Fi.
Devika's-
It doesn't sound like wife.
No, I mean, like, we have some very severe opinions. It's just that, fortunately for us, we don't work on the same domain at all. Mine has got nothing to do with people. No, actually not. But she's got everything to do with people. I don't need to meet anybody for a while, still do work. But, so it's different. It's different. Let's go back to your presentation, Bala. Put that up.
Okay, I'm
Put that stuff up. Put the presentation up.
just a second. Yeah. So can you see?
Right. Yeah. Let's go back. Yeah. Let's go to the next slide. Yes,
Yeah. So that's what it was. So I think towards the final year project was a very interesting project that we did with the DRDO. I think that was the time that DRDO had approached an ID to work on some projects where they could commercialize defense technologies. So I think Amit also worked on such project, and I think later on also he did. And I got the opportunity to work on a dental scaler for DRDO, and this project was DRDO chief was that time Dr. Kalam.
Oh, sorry,
And-
I cannot not ask this question. What is a defense organization doing a dental machine for?
Oh well, I think they had a division called CTech, the Center for Technology Extension and Cooperation, right?
Ah, okay.
And this was initiated to commercialize defense technologies. Most of these inventions and like also in the way the US also works. So they have technologies which are developed for defense, and they sit there with the defense. So the idea is that how can the civilians benefit for it? This was also Dr. Kalam's idea, and this whole initiative was started because of that. And there were multiple areas. So we looked at a couple of technologies. One was for finding fish under the sea, and the second was for dental application. So
For a minute, I thought it was torture. Use case being torture. Sorry. Yeah. So this was your dip, was it?
Yeah, this was my diploma project, and so we did it in Cochin, and later on also produced. It was tested at Delhi, and it was given on a royalty basis for manufacturing. Very interesting experience with the team of defense, as well as had opportunity to make a presentation to Dr. Kalam and also scientists there. Very, very encouraging person, and again, fascinating stories there also. Very humane in his approach. He had his veena in his room, and you would find him playing there. In fact, one of the scientists who was working with me, we had gone. That was the first time we went on an aircraft. Okay, him as well as me. So we went to Delhi, and when we
when I finished the presentation, this guy was hanging around there. So he in South Block. So he called him and he wanted to always meet him. And this, even if being a scientist from defense, it was very difficult to get his appointment. So he waited there in the evening, past 7 o'clock and all. So he happened to be there, and he took him inside and he called him and said, "Why are you waiting outside?" All over there were books. He said, "Okay, what are you doing right now? Do you have any work?" He said, "No." "Okay, please arrange the books for me." So he made him arrange the books over there, and he dropped him back because he did not have a vehicle in his own personal car. So that was really amazing. This guy still tells me the story. I met him only last year again, and is very, very grateful to that whole experience that he had. So very fascinating experience.
Right.
Yeah, I think.
Cool.
Yeah,
Then it is a job in Goa. Like
correct. Yeah.
the last I heard of a guy with a job in Goa was he quit his job, became an activist, and that's another name for hanging around in a shack. Why did you decide to go to Goa, and why did you get out of Goa? Tell us a Goa Phil Cop story.
Yeah, Goa was like immediately after graduation, you're looking for what is the best place to do your project, right? You write to one company, and then he got an opportunity saying from Goa, saying that okay, there is a company there where Rebellion had worked.
Right.
It was called Photophone earlier, and I got an opportunity to join this company. Revenue was no longer there, but she was doing her own. It was running her own studio there, but she was very helpful when I went there. So I decided to go, land up in Goa and started working with this company called Phil Corporation. Phil Corp is a company where I tie up with Konica and then Polaroid, both. And
Right.
they were making cameras, and all kinds of projection equipment. So that I thought it is very interesting because a camera is a fascinating product design, right? Because so many intricacies, optics, mechanics, everything put together. So got to work on some camera designs and some ID cameras also. So I created. So this is a place where I was working with a terminal there. The terminal was only with for text. That is the time when you used to send emails using the whole screen was only for text, like in DOS.
That's like the 8286 or whatever, right? Like
Yeah,
what?
something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. 286.
Yeah. Let's go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, and we got so a couple of things that was done there. This is a ID camera. So this was a very interesting thing that was done. You've seen these Polaroid cameras. Polaroid camera use four lenses and they capture the image. So got to work on a product. There was a need for capturing integral identity, uh, format. That means how do you create an identity that cannot be faked? So a Polaroid was like a picture. So the idea over here was to capture data and image at that time together to create a composite image. So two lenses will capture the photographs and two lenses will capture the data. So you insert a data card and capture the image. So you can attach, put the face and the name together. And that's how it was done. So it was deployed in Goa. On the right-hand side was also a digital identity system for voting cards, for generating for voting cards. And all. So that was, again, and that was the time we also got married, and Nishma was working with Tata Johnson Controls, and she was designing the Indica seats that time.
Yeah,
So
she told me that you guys got married because the STD bills were too much.
That is true. That is true. That was much before we used to call from Cochin to Delhi, and yeah, that was like too much.
Cochin to Delhi and then from Goa to Pune too, right? I mean, after
Goa to
that.
Pune.
Yeah.
And that time there was a mobile phone also later on.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
Right.
16 rupees a minute. Yeah. So this happened in 1998, and so after the 3 years, we were in 3 years in Goa, and Goa is generally a very laid-back place. And we also started a company there for manufacturing. While I was working in film, Nishma had also moved to Goa and started doing freelancing projects. And actually, the seed for ticket design was sown there. And we started a company also for selling lifestyle accessory products, which very in no time we realized that, whatever products we were actually making and selling to the showrooms in Goa, they were being copied almost instantly, and we
Right.
had no longer any edge. So we stopped the whole thing, and that's when MIT Media. There was an MIT Media Lab company uh, who approached us for uh, for an opportunity to design wearable wireless devices. This is, I'm talking about 2000.
Right.
So we, and that was a very good opportunity. So I moved to Goa. I moved to Mumbai, Pune, and Nishma was in Goa itself, was for a short while. There's overlapping period. And we worked on a product for MIT Media Lab spin-off companies. It is a wearable computer. And this was a 2000, the dot-com. There was a massive amount of money being poured into India.
Tell me about it. Right. Yeah.
You know about it, yeah.
Right, yeah.
So we had these uh, investors who had come in and they wanted to set up this whole thing. So we created a system that time, and that was deployed also and tested. Uh, Actually, it was the whole system was designed for wireless data transfer systems, and at that time we designed also working on these wearable displays. So you had yeah, as
Like
early as
Google,
2000.
the early versions of Google Glass, really. I mean, not
That time there was a Glastron. Sony had come out with the Glastron,
right.
and yeah, something like that. So around that time, this dot-com bust happened, and that's when we full-fledgedly went into running a design studio from our homes. So this is a living room, and behind those partition is where people used to go.
And you said the gentleman sitting on the right in the picture where you are working on the computer is the first employee. I mean,
Yes,
other than you two.
Sachin is the first employee of Ticket Design that time, and we had only one person. And slowly we grew. Yeah.
Right.
And it was a very tough period that time because we had to, it was a cold calling completely. How do you get projects, right? How do you start afresh, and how do you, people don't know about product design. But thankfully, internet was a big enabler, and everybody, there was no longer a difference between whether you're a single person company or a large company. We could approach anybody. And from here, we moved to another studio, which I think again in 3 or 4 years' time. This is where we increased our team size and we worked on, again, very diverse projects, right from PLCs to. We also worked on a project with Tata Motors. That was kind of a very exciting project for us, which made a very big impact in terms of how we approach the problem as well as how it is actually being used later on also. So that made a
Now
again.
let me ask you the question that I asked Nishma. Right? So how is it working with your wife? Tell me one good thing and one bad thing about working with your spouse.
Yeah, I think one fantastic thing is this completely seamless way of working, because since you have the same kind of orientation towards the work that you do, there is no uh, there is no there's no clash there as such. It's seamless working by 24/7 by 365. So that is a positive. It's a big positive. And
I
sorry,
go ahead, go ahead.
and the negative, right?
Yeah.
The negative is that who wants to work seamless?
Right.
Yeah, but then I think the negative and the positive, I think it's a package, But one advantage, big advantage is that I I know exactly how she's thinking and she knows how I'm thinking from that perspective. So approaching, there is no communication gap in terms of how we want to deal with the situation. So that's a fantastic thing. That's fantastic.
Right. And I mean, I remember like you telling me at some point of time that like once a client booked 2 rooms for you guys, or they were appalled that there were 2 people. I mean, they didn't know you were husband and wife.
Correct, correct. So Nishma has retained her surname. So she is Nishma Pandit and I'm Balakrishna Mahajan. So normally, people, there was a call. In one instance, the person had booked 2 rooms, and I called him and said, "No, we just need 1 room." Then he was wondering, "Oh, 1 room." I said, "We are married." He said, "Oh, okay. We put the phone down." Later on, I realized somebody that I've been working with for so long. He called and he wanted to give some kind of a communication. And he told us about it, and he was saying that, okay, give me her address also. I want to see.
Yeah, that was to invite for for his kid's wedding or something.
Son's marriage. Yeah, I have been working with them for so long. But I mean, he had a shock of his life. I said, that's really crazy, because and the positive part is that, this upfront, there is no gender bias, correct?
Right.
Because normally there would be a certain, because if you know that, two people are married, and generally there is some the power equation comes in, and then, some strange things happen, and then the biases do come in. So thankfully, there was nothing like that. Um, and that worked for us, but I'm sure 99% people know.
All right. So what do you think is that one thing that they never taught you at D school, but now you do it very well?
B school, I think one thing, one aspect is about what happens after design. Correct. When the design cycle is complete, the real proof of how the design is going to work starts after that, and those aspects are somehow not really. We did not have those aspects, at least as far as I remember, while we were studying, because the design requires a lot of persuasion. Product design is actually is quite tough that way, in the sense that the cycle is long. You have to prove the idea, and then in design, you never do the same thing twice again and again. So every time you're doing some experimentation, you're trying something new, and you want to prove it, and you say, okay, this is what we can do, and that person says, okay, how do you do it? And then you have to prove the idea, and you have to prove it all for yourself or somebody else's business, and that becomes a challenge. And after the design is done, taking it up and putting it out for manufacturing or taking it to the next level, that's another road ahead. I'm sure you also agree with me there. So that is one aspect, definitely is there. And the second is about selling. Selling is another aspect. I think NIT doesn't, or design education is not really talking about the selling of an idea also, as well as idea. Of course, we do presentations, but I don't see many people doing that in terms of persuasively putting forward the idea. Because if you reject a thought, it is very easily accepted, right? You say, okay, this is not good, this is not good, this is not good. And then how do you choose how to take it forward?
Right.
Because rejecting is also a choice. So that is another thing. I think those are the two things I would say.
Cool. I'm going to jump to something personal. This is around when Veera happens, right? Like, so I'm going to actually share my screen again and go to what I had to ask Veera. So I asked Veera, what should your dad stop, start, and continue? Right? 3 things, right? So let's actually quickly play that part.
I don't know. There's nothing really in particular that I want him to stop doing. Like, things are fine, like they are right now. I don't know. I don't mind it. So there's nothing really in particular that I want him to stop doing. I mean, start doing. He could, I don't know, like start, getting me more.
Like more what? Let's hear more what.
Yes, he could start getting me a violin, which I really, really want. A violin.
Say that again very clearly so that we can get it on tape.
Okay, well, I would like for him to start getting me a violin because I've been wanting a violin for a really long time now. And this is a wonderful way of telling him.
Good. And then what do you want him to continue? Keep doing what he's doing. What is that?
I don't know, like the conversations we have, they're really nice. As in, they start out as something really deep and that could have a lot of meaning, but then they end up turning into something extremely ridiculous that make no sense. Once we were talking about something like what is the purpose of life, and what are we actually here for, what is happening, and then suddenly we ended up talking about a number 9 on a car, and I don't even know how we got there. And we were actually in the car, and he was driving, and he made some really lame joke about the car in front of us, so it just sort of turned into something ridiculous.
So that's Veera Bala. Veera is Bala and Nishma's daughter. She's, according to Nishma, I mean, sorry, I shouldn't be saying it. I think Veera is in this call too. She's listening to this, right? But she's Nishma and Bala's.
She's the guinea pig for everything.
Poor thing. So I have got 2 questions about that, right? Like this is something that I wonder about. I've got 2 questions about 2 design parents having children. Like first question is that does it change? Do you think it changes parenting in any way, or like are we kind of ridiculously solutioning parenting?
Yeah, I think so. If parenting, one thing that the way you are brought up in, that really I realized only later on that regimenting or an authoritative kind of environment in homes where typically you have the father and the mother, there's some stereotyping happens, so that really restricts a balanced perspective. So one thing that has happened because of the education, with the design education, of course there is too much of questioning everywhere. So I'm sure Veera has overdose of that a lot, and all the questions lead to something strange.
Yeah,
So,
like what is the purpose of life?
I don't know what she's talking about. I don't know where that is. I'm sure she made it up.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
So like that, I think so. But definitely, it is opened up our minds towards possibilities, right? In terms of you create the idea is to let the ground remain as neutral as possible. To let it remain as neutral for absorbing anything new. So that, and to do that, the minimum that is required to not interfere or not come in the way. Correct. So that is something that that we consciously try and do, because there are no thoughts which are she needs to think on her own, and that is another idea that we try to consciously make the choice of not disturbing.
But do you think that we do? I mean, I also think about this stuff because both our daughters are kind of heading towards leaving school, probably leaving home soon, and so on, right? So do you think that we actually impose creativity a lot? It's like the opposite of engineering and medicine. Do we do that?
Yeah, so engineering medicine was like one extreme, and then you say now design. There's nothing in between.
Not necessarily design. I'm not even saying design. I'm saying creative that art. Impose creative arts. Okay. Like for example, like if it can never be like I want to be a banker. I don't know whether we'll be okay. Will you be okay with it? That's the kind of question I'm asking.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have these conversations, and we ask her, because she's got a free choice about what she wants to do, and there is obviously at home you have the design discussions and everything is discussed. So she's tilted towards that, but there is no. She's not oriented towards. She doesn't know as of now. Absolutely, there is no pressure of any sort. She could do whatever she would really want. So there's no pressure at all. And so I don't see, I see there is an international design, but I don't know where it is going. She's in 10th. And I get calls and to talk about, for people to talk about their children. And I'm advising them and telling them about what needs to be done and all that. And I don't do any of that at home.
Right. Cool. Go ahead and share your screen back again, Bala.
Yeah,
Let's get to work. Let's actually run some work through. Like we've got probably about 10 to 15 minutes to wrap this stuff up. Let's
Okay.
quickly walk through work, and I've got 2 closing questions and we can call it a day.
No problem. Where is it? Just a sec.
Take it out.
Sorry, I lost it.
Give him a
Metaphorically.
repeat.
Yeah, repeat. Only Demon can do that. We gave a
Yeah, we
repeat.
didn't talk about that, but
Was
we
it for bad
skipped it.
design?
Huh?
Was it for the bad design course?
No, bad design. Everybody can excel in bad design. It was for analytical drawing. It was just laziness, I guess.
Yeah, cool. Let's start from this slide. Go ahead.
Yeah.
It's all yours.
So then, all right. So that's when ticket design happened when we moved from Goa to Pune. Yeah, we talked about it actually. So I'll just run you through some key work that really made a difference to us and also helped us. So this is where we are right now. I think this is our current office. This is the team. Recent picture, latest picture what we have. A small team, but yes, and a few projects which made a difference. So we worked with Tata Motors in I think around 2006-7 or so, where they came to us with this design and saying that okay, they want to use a tracking device for putting it in the cars and sorry, not in the cars, in the trucks. So that there's a pressure from the consigners to know where the truck is, because GPS was also coming in very strongly, and it was accessible technology for anybody to use. So the idea was to put this into the device, into the truck, and use it. And they came up with this unit with F1, F2 keys and numeric keypad and all. When we looked into this and then started the design of this project.
Which year was this, Bala? Which year was it? Just to kind of put context
I
in
think
place.
this was around 2006, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
2006 or 7. And so when this electronic box, when we went to doing the design research, then we realized that none of these guys really wanted it. वो जो drivers थे, they would say that ये क्या कर रहे हो आप कुछ भी लगा दो तो we will cut the cable and बोल देंगे काम नहीं करता है, because this was basically a tracking device, and so it was a completely hostile user. The driver did not want it. None of these guys wanted it. Consigners were forced to push it or put on the product. And that's where there was a flip. And we created this design of this on the left-hand side. It's this non-glamorous looking product. We just created this design to basically calling it like a travel mate. They were working on a tracking device. We made it into a travel mate because it had to be user-centered. And the idea was that to make it useful for the drivers from the first, and then everybody else. And how does one do that? So the idea was to look at the basic 3 needs. One was the safety on the road, that in case of an accident, will they get medical help in that 1 hour? Second was in case of a breakdown, how will they approach? Whether they get immediate help for breakdown. And third is whether it helps them do the job better. And these are some of the questions that were not really initially in the picture. And that's when the scope of the project really expanded. And it turned upside down, because we were designing a tracking device, now it became a travel mate. And what came out of this was this device. So it is basically a device which has got an interface, it's got pre-fed numbers at that time. And on both sides, on the right-hand side, there was a entertainment controls. On the left-hand side, you had the emergency controls. So it was made into a graphical interface. At the same time, it was designed to be minimally, it had to have minimal attention required. I mean, you could just touch the device and you could use it. The button locations were designed that way. So that became a big uh, contention point actually, because the music system was introduced, and that's, we wanted the device to run 24 hours, and the only way to make the device 24 hours in a truck is to keep it on 24 hours and to put some music in it, right? And so we introduced a music system in that, and that's where Tata was saying that, okay, how do we, music is not a core competency. Why should we put music in it? But then later on, it was jointly decided that they would develop that module and put it in there. Now it is MP3 and all those functionalities are there in the device. So now the device is running 24 hours. So that became a big thing. It won this Appliance Design Award. And it was a very encouraging kind of a project for us. And if you see, there was also a portal where at the portal you could the consignors could see where the truck is and everything else. So the design of, sorry.
I wish they would get the portal redesigned.
Oh yeah. Portal was
Right.
It is still in use. I think since last what? I think so many years it is still in use. Another interesting thing like to talk about is a system that we have designed along with our client uh, for fragrance dispensing using a new technology which has been licensed from an inventor, independent inventor. So this is a fragrance dispensing system. It's got a refill and a dispenser module, and it uses oxygen as the pumping mechanism for dispensing fragrance instead of using a aerosol or it's a clean technology product. Basically, it has a reverse of a fuel cell. It takes in air from one side and pushes oxygen inside. The oxygen goes into the fragrance, and the fragrance comes out by capillary reaction on the paper. So this device is now selling in almost 40 countries. And there is a series of products we have done for them, and later on also they're also in the current market. But the learning, actually, the big learning here was again the post-design stage, right? Because there are certain things in this design which were manufacturing a big challenge in order to get the wraparound feel for the product. Very difficult because it becomes an undercut in the mold and things like that. So there were some tips and tricks used over there to achieve that. So it was like a journey post design in order to make it happen. Pretty exciting. Some new products for the same line are here. Yeah. We also worked on a very extensive, large engagement with Exide, the India's largest battery manufacturer, right? And also world's third largest. So they were late entrants into the market, and they wanted to design this new range of products. So we designed these inverters, modular inverters, UPSs and inverters with an integrated power bank system. You know, like there is a emergency lamp embedded in the UPS itself, which you can take it away. You can plug it and take it away, because normally you don't know where the emergency lamp is.
Right.
And even if you find it, it may not be charged. So it worked out really well for this particular product. So on the left is how it exists right now and how the design is. And so just like, the root of actually all branding lies in the way the product is actually designed, right? The series are designed. We often have a lot of products which are like wide diversity of product, but they don't have the same visual language going across the range. Mm-hmm. So in this exercise, we worked on the entire range of products. That means right from the two-wheeler, four-wheeler, all ranges of batteries, as well as the other brand of SF Sony. So you will see these products which are designed for, stackability and safety, like these things. These caps over here, and a completely new visual language. It was a refreshing change in the market from what it was earlier and what exists right now. Yeah. So the same range extended, like this across the battery. So for two-wheelers, like that. And then they had another brand, so creating very distinctively.
This is that interesting thing. You kind of start the story with the toilet, end it with the toilet. You remember walking into the architecture school where you saw the toilets first? Let's talk about
Oh,
this
yeah,
toilet.
yeah. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think so. That toilet came back to this toilet. So this is a very interesting project we did with a company called ITT, um, and they here the idea was to they had a system by which by using earthworms as a for composting the waste, you could locally create a self-sufficient toilet system. That means currently the toilets are all linked and connected, like you need a drainage line and a septic tank and all that. So this is an independent subsystem which does not require that. You have the earthworm as a main material on the side. So you see this waste being collected over here. It is a part of that Swachh Bharat thing mission, not as an official part of the government, but it is a project created, I mean, project conceptualized and implemented for that application. So you have this waste which is segregated over here, and then the earthworms will process it in 24 hours. So for a given family of, let us say, 5 people, it is sufficient for you to have the whole system running efficiently. So our role in this was to create this whole design in order to make it very, very compact and very suitable for the rural application and within that price, because this was very, very cost competitive. And so few things like, this panel architecture has been designed in such a way that, 2 people can easily carry it. Otherwise, if you see, sorry, otherwise you see that current toilets have been designed with the concrete structures, and they are not used for the purposes for it is built. They are used for something else. And and over here also, so the idea was to make it very small, compact, for split architecture for modular design, and to make it and assemble it on site very comfortably. So there is a modular system, modular uh, earthworm harvest, earthworm post composting pit here, and then you have the toilet structure on the left hand side.
Right.
Very interesting. And this is, I think, the last one where you also worked on it, right? But you worked on
Yeah.
the
I also worked on it when I was in brand union. We did the branding system for this. Yeah.
correct, correct. So this
Right.
is a company called Team Indus in Bangalore. They are, not were, they are, uh, they came up, they had this audacious target they participated in a worldwide contest set by Google to Google X Prize to send a lunar rover to the surface of the moon. And if it can travel a distance of 500 meters and take HD pictures back, you get to win $30 million. Yeah. So there were worldwide so many companies who started doing that. And 5 companies worldwide were shortlisted to, uh, they got the $1 million prize to work further on it. So Team Indus was one of them. So we had the opportunity to work with them to work on the rover that was created. The average age over there was, I think, 28. So very fresh people, completely gung ho about wanting to do things. And the founder himself says that, the first thing he did was to go to Google and type, how does one go to the moon? And that's where the company started. So, so they designed the lander design was, they worked on it. So we worked on the rover part of it in terms of how it would be um, architected and compacted for that lunar environment. It is a very harsh environment because there's no air and there's no sound. Things have to work in extreme kind of situations, and it had to walk on a regolith. Regolith is like fine sand, and it would move very slowly because there was no GPS there. So it would need to capture by image processing only. You know the geographical location, and so this was designed for that application. It's just some of the initial
I
ideation
don't
for
think we
that.
can talk too much about this
I know,
project.
I
I
know.
know
I
that.
think
Yeah.
we cannot talk. So I'll just quickly show some of the images of how we built it. We built it in, this is a prototype that we built here, how it looks. So that's about it. So this was the wheel design idea. And no, there is one more project. One more project.
Oh, that's okay. We can kind of run through this very quickly, I guess.
Correct.
This actually, we put it more because there was a connect between, you and I, and we worked on this project together, and that's about
Correct,
it.
correct, correct. So we worked with this company called Paras Dairy, a Delhi-based company. They have a very large presence in uh, North India. So some 7,000 villages they collect milk from. So they wanted to launch a new brand in the market and the completely new packaging. So this is a completely. So we decided to use leverage, Devanagari and use that as a need notify because every other brand is trying to make it look Western, right? And trying to say that okay, this is an international brand coming to India and stuff like that. So here we wanted to celebrate Devanagari as a font. So this is already in the market and including the packaging as well as more picture here.
Cool.
Very exciting to work on. And I did not know that Veera is going to be in this, so I put a picture of hers also.
She was very much there.
Yeah, she was very much. I'm going to speak. So that's all from my side.
Let me ask you two closure questions. One is, I think everybody should kind of know, how is this business doing during the pandemic? I mean, what are you guys doing? Is it things are okay? Are stuff going good? And what
So,
exactly is happening?
I think initially there was a big shock, and people literally froze. Everything froze for us for a couple of months. But then things have been looking up, especially during that time. I think we've been working on at least 4 projects for related to Corona. One is a tracking. One is a proximity sensing device, along with the Italian company. Then we worked on Deepak Patania has worked on a mask, right? He came out with an idea.
Yes.
So we've been helping him, design it and help him take to the next level.
Bala,
So
I can
that,
stop the screen share, Bala.
sorry, yeah. So Deepak, and then other than that, we are working on a couple of more corona-related products, masks and mask-related projects. So that really was good, and I think the market is picking up and business is looking a little better in terms of what people are realizing that this is not going to go away so soon. So business is back. I think slowly it's picking up.
So, Bala, how important is it to work for a company before you start your own thing? You guys did, both of you did. Nisma did, you did, and is it good? I know a lot of people who jump straight into entrepreneurship, like designpreneurship in that sense. How important is it? And what did you learn, if at all there is anything you learned?
I think that has been a fantastic learning actually, because today morning I was in another session, and that session was about exploring about the basics of entrepreneurship and all that, and I realized that that experience of having worked in a company in an organized setup with different departments and with a manufacturing line and all that is it has made a big difference, because you don't look at that world as something that you have to deliver to. You are coming from that world, and then you know exactly how things are happening in there. So I think the whole thing about empathy that we talk about, so it really helps you from that perspective. Having that experience of having worked in a real life corporate setup, that I would totally recommend. I think we did only 3 years. Some people really uh, start up immediately. So that is also, I think, I don't know how they manage, but an experience really helps. I'm sure Vishnu would also agree there. You had a second question. What was that?
Now, I don't know whether to ask that question or not, but it's the important question. It's an important question all the same. So I was asking, what would you tell people who want to start a multidisciplinary studio like now? Is there something that you will tell them?
What should I tell them? I think it is fantastic to start. One of the reasons why we started Ticket Design was I was employed and Nishma was also working with Tata. She was designing seats and I was designing cameras. And you know, you get really restless with things after a point of time, and you want to explore the diversity of what are the different ways in which you can make an impact. And that was the key driver for us also, to say that, okay, let's just start a design company and start working on our own and start approaching different kinds of challenges. So that really that really opens up new possibilities for designers. So I would say that it is absolutely the opportune time, I think, for to starting. I think uh, I'm not referring to Corona, but I'm talking about generally when you talk about so much entrepreneurship is already happening in the country. And if you look at the number of design studios are not so high, because I hear stories from other countries and where you have amazing amount of design. So there is tremendous opportunities also. So I would say that this is a fantastic way to
Go for it.
explore your diversity and try your hand at multiple things.
Right.
So
All
you
right.
can
We are done here. Sajid, thanks a ton, Bala. Thank you. That was
Thank
actually
you.
a good conversation. Not that we couldn't have had it between you and I, but then the idea is to have it when lots of people who are listening to us. Thanks a ton. And
Thank
thanks
you.
to Veera and Nishma. They took time off, and I actually pinged them yesterday, day before, and we actually got. Thanks a
Thank
ton.
you.
Sajid, over to you.
Thank you.
You make it easy, man.
No, first thing is to sort of tell Shiva, it was brilliant the way you conducted it. It was like a very, very easy conversation. And through the conversation, we managed to bring out aspects of Bala even we didn't know. And that's what's again interesting about this format, because childhood influences, people, even just people from his hometown and architecture college and the people he met first on campus, they were really beautifully brought out. So hats off to Shiva. Even the segue to Nishma and Veera, getting to see perspectives and interesting questions like working together, the pros and cons. So very, very well planned, Shiva. Shiva, you're becoming more and more professional at this. I think we could just put him as the
No, he is really, really very, very good, I must say, in terms of, because when you want to explain certain things, you can go on and on, but it's really good. He's been a great help. Thank you, Shiva.
no, fantastic,
Pleasure,
Shiva.
sir.
And then now, as a closing speech for Bala, I love the way you shared also, and it's fantastic to hear your journey. And um, I know this session was about Bala, but the way both you and Nishma work, and you said about the seamless aspect and being able to be tuned in. So you shared only a few examples of your work, and one of the things which I take away, I think, and right from NID days, it's really about questioning the brief. And you guys have still stayed very true to what Ranjan taught us, that when you said about the truck and the the brief given by a client is to track, and then to really have that empathy to listen to people. And I know both of you lead with empathy in terms of knowing the consumer, understanding what the client really wants, and that's quite evident in all your projects. And even that that dispenser, I know that you're working with a client in Dubai, and I've spoken
Yeah,
to the client, and he talks about Bala and Nishma like he's changed their life. And that's what a designer is. And to move from a vendor to really make a difference, you've got to really make an impact to the client. You've got to become their best friend. You've got to see what they want and be able to stand up and deliver what their consumer wants. I think both of you illustrate that. I know Bala's very uncomfortable speaking about himself, and he's very low key, behind the scenes kind of guy. But hats off to both of you, and thank you for sharing a lot of your work and the extent, and right down to what you're doing for the sky's not the limit, the moon's the limit now. You're doing projects which are so exciting, and it's fantastic. Even the dip, and we were also roommates for some time. I remember when he was
yeah.
working on the defense
Oh,
project,
yeah. Of
Bala
course,
used
of
to,
course.
Nishma used to come and stay in my house in Paldi. Uh,
Yeah, that is another session, right?
yeah, that is another.
Jacob,
We had a
Jacob.
interesting roommate called Jacob Jacob. Actually, his name was Jacob Jacob. Uh, and Bala and me used to convince him to dance for us and make tea. And yeah, that
So
was
many Jacob stories.
Yeah, so Jacob stories. So yeah, but thank you so much, guys, for sharing it, and hats off. It's really inspiring to see the kind of work which you do.
Thank you,
And
Sajid.
I'm first
Thank
going to
you.
go off FB. People on FB, I can see all a lot of the batchmates, Rupam, Manna, they're all there on Facebook. Bala,
Okay.
the moral
Okay.
support is happening from there. Hemant is on a holiday, but he's watching you in
Okay.
Lonavala. So this all the guys on FB. Bye, over and out from here.